Welcome, Chiefs Kingdom. Thanks for tuning in to this Red Kingdom Media production, bringing you raw, authentic Chiefs coverage. Make sure to like and subscribe to stay up to date on your team. Now sit back and enjoy the show.
Offseason. Let's work. Hey.
Welcome to this late night edition of the Gridiron Gambit live reaction. Tonight we're going to be going over the 4th through 7th rounds of the Chiefs draft and also kind of listing through some of the UDFAs that popped through. I'll try not to get them all confused, but some of them are mostly just invites to the rookie mini camps. But we're going to go through all those. Probably not expecting as much of a turnout tonight versus last couple nights that we've gotten, most likely because of us not being around right away after some of the picks happened, because life was getting in the way as well. And, but the last night of the draft, or the last full day, I should say, of the draft, it is the kind that you put on for a little bit, and then you're like, what am I doing? I can't stare at this the whole time. Walk away for a bit, check back in when you think your team's back on the clock. So honestly, I didn't physically watch most of the draft happen tonight or all day today, because I was spending my early afternoon at the season ticket member event at Draft Fest at Arrowhead Stadium. So I was trying to pay attention to what Mitch was saying. Got to hear the news about Tamba Ali getting inducted in the Ring of Honor straight from there. So that was hype. I got to see Xavier Worthy up on stage and them ask him questions and get us hyped for what a punt return with him might look like. They gave him a cake because obviously we knew that it was his 21st birthday today. So he had already been flown to Kansas City essentially before Saturday. So they got to bring him up on stage, let Chiefs Kingdom yell at him and tell him how much they love him already, and then give him his cake and move on. I thought maybe like the last couple of years they'd get a second round pick Kingsley on stage as well, but I guess they couldn't get him there quick enough to have him on stage for that event. So it was mostly Xavier Worthy, but it was nice to see him. I already saw his jerseys in the pro shop, so I think we can all assume the number 1 is not just a symbol for first round selection. I think that's his number going forward. So let's go through the several selections that occurred today from the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm not going to be alone again. It seems like for the third time in a row, I'm going to have Dale join me, but I got to do a lot of the early lifting and installing myself and hope that the topics and the numbers start climbing a little bit. Doesn't feel so awkward anymore, but it worked so well 2 times in a row, so might as well hedge our bets and try a third time. Hopefully there's enough of y'all crazies out there who are still draft heavy and wanting to know our thoughts about what happened today, even though it's been several hours after the draft has ended. But you already got to listen to everybody else speak about it, so might as well listen to us about it. You know what I'm saying? Let me think here. I think what's best is I'm going to list the individual players that were selected through the 4th and 7th round. briefly mention the UDFA players that have also been signed, call out the mini camp players, and then once I've gone all the way through, I'll restart the list and I'll give a little bit more in-depth opinion about some of the players. I don't know if I'm going to have a lot to say about every single one, but I'm definitely going to have something to say about the first two picks of the day, which was in the 4th round. Those are two very interesting selections. So 4th round began. From my perspective, I wasn't getting to fully watch a draft, but I'd have a couple guys that either I was interested in or somebody else was interested in, and they were texting, "Oh man, this guy's going to this team. This guy's going to this team." I think Troy Franklin is probably the 4th rounder that like hurt the most when people saw it, and then it's to the Broncos. And then I think even later on in the draft, Brendan Rice goes to the Chargers. So, I think Rodney had a couple cornerbacks or defensive ends I got taken a little before the round he thought, and where he would maybe want the Chiefs to select them. But it did not come to be. And it seems like based off of Thursday and Friday, Brett Veach was more than willing to just kind of sit still today and take whoever was there at the pick they had and not move around so much this time, and just say they want a certain number of players out of the draft instead of like establishing a certain priority or importance based on a certain player. So I don't know if that's a testament to how Brett Veach thinks of the draft as a whole, putting more pressure on those first 2 days of the draft to come away with players that you think are immediately impactful. And then the day 3 selections, they start off more sure, and then you start assuming less and less about the players and how you feel about them, and you start not paying attention to the caliber of the player and more just focus on what the position of the player is, because it might be the case, they need interior linemen or something like that, and some of the selections or camp bodies that we see might reflect that, and we know they might not be a starter and may or may not even be a backup depending on how the numbers check out. But I can't talk too much smack because Brett Veach still finds amazing value in the later rounds of the draft as well. When I'll go down the list here in a couple minutes, but the 4th round pick, the first pick that Chiefs finally used on a defensive player this year, they show the highlights, and Mitch on stage is comparing him to L'Jarius Sneed because he's a 4th rounder. And I think a lot of people also kind of thought he was sort of a 2nd round type grade. So if that's the case, it's good to see that that value being had there. But overall, when you look at like how every single draft pick in the free agent bring stuff like that, it was very offensive heavy, and other than a couple defensive backs, it was majority trying to give Patrick new pass catchers or pass protectors or a combination of both depending on their role. But even going through the undrafted picks, it's still very offensive heavy as well. So there's something to be said there that Fred Veach is making these alterations. He saw the offense. He heard our complaints, and he was just ready to add more talent to it. The first couple picks that we've already discussed, which I think are what most people are going to be talking about after the draft, has been ancient history. A week from now, I think the Worthy and the Kingsley choices are what's going to be predominantly focused on. But the list that I'm about to go through here for all the picks that happened today and the signings, I think might also have to be contributed into that conversation. And with that, I am no longer alone. We've hit the 10-minute mark, so we've got a second person on here. Daily Dale makes it on for his third night in a row. How's it popping?
Man, feeling good, bro. Late, chill, too much going on, but we made it. We got through the entire draft.
That's right. If you heard earlier parts of it, I was saying that this is not the part of the draft where you're focused on it 100%. You're fading in and out because all the values are just like all over the place. You can't really assume anybody believes the same things anymore like you can do as you're kind of focusing through night 2. So day 3 is more of a crapshoot, and the 4th round seems like where everything kind of fixes itself, I guess. Like all the things that you thought, oh man, that shouldn't have happened in
Right.
the 3rd round, that starts to trickle in and finishes within the 4th round, and then everything else starts to feel almost normal again once you start the 5th round again. So I hyped it up, but we're going to do it now. I'm going to go through each pick individually, Dale. I'm going to say where the pick happened, who it was, and all that. Once I work my way through, we'll start back up and begin with the first choice that the Chiefs made today. So in the 4th round, with the number 131st pick, the Chiefs took tight end Jared Wiley out of TCU. And then 2 picks later, traded for the Buffalo Bills to pick a netted back for giving up pick 95 and moving up to 28 to select Xavier Worthy. Is a defensive back listed as a safety, Jaden Hicks out of Washington State. So get another Wazoo defensive back. Then we got into the 5th round where pick number 159 from the Cowboys is Hunter Nazard, center from Penn State. He was most recently a center. There's talk that he might just be a guard, but overall in college, he played enough of different positions that the Chiefs obviously love that ability in their linemen to be stationed wherever you can fill a need. And then the 6th round, where number 211 from the 49ers was cornerback Kamal Hayden from Tennessee. I know I know that Rodney was pretty high on him as a cornerback, and especially likes his size. And we'll go into that more because the 4th round pick also has incredible size for defensive back. And then the Chiefs finished the official 7th round pick with the pick number 248 that they got from the Bills. They took guard CJ Hansen out of Holy Cross, and a lot of people are saying, like, where can you get Holy Cross film? You probably can't. So that was another, like, just kind of shot in the dark and hope that talent shows out. But we'll see if that amounts to anything. And then we got some undrafted free agents. I'm going to try to make sure I pick around and make sure I get guys who are for sure signed versus just invited to mini camps. So we've got running backs Carson Steele out of UCLA and Manny Bailey from TCU. I think those are 2 for sure ones that we've seen. Some guys are pretty hyped about that. We got wide receiver Reggie Brown out of James Madison, tight end Cup from Baylor, Cup Baylor from Texas Tech. It's an interesting name. How you not go to Baylor by that point? It's crazy. Offensive lineman Ethan Driscoll out of Marshall. Jalen Cunningham, offensive lineman Arkansas State. Nick Torres, offensive lineman Villanova. Edge rusher Ayebe Okiyanoma out of Charlotte. Defensive tackle Fabian Levitt out of Florida State. Linebacker Curtis Jacobs out of Penn State. I think Rodney was a big fan of him coming out and thought he would be 6th or 7th rounder, so undrafted free agent as a priority. I could see that. That's essentially the same value, just wrapped in different gift wrapping.
Right.
Linebacker Swayze Bozeman, Southern Mississippi. Cornerback Christian Roland Wallace, USC. Cornerback Miles Battle out of Utah. And then some camp invites have been extended to quarterback Spencer Sanders, Ole Miss. Running back Trey Potts, Penn State. Wide receiver Jaron Hayek, Villanova. Edge rusher Deshaun McCarthy, East Stroudsburg. Linebacker Bryce Gallagher, Northwestern. Linebacker Bryce Houston out of Ohio. And safety Sam Lockett out of Washington State, another Wazoo defensive back. So that is a lot of selections, obviously. And we don't know if half of those guys make the roster. Everybody that we've already talked about yesterday and on Thursday are probably the guys who are set to be the ones who get all the credit. So now we'll kind of briefly say what we think about each of these other picks. And obviously this team can find value in any spot. That's why every pick ends up getting talked about to some degree or hyped up, because we're optimistic and we can see the potential in everybody. So Rod, you got a lot of your guys brought in towards the end of this draft, so you should love that. What player the Chiefs drafted are you the most interested in? I think the easiest one to say is Xavier Worthy, but I think honestly, Dale, the secondary one other than Kingsley, I'm going to say the guy who's first up on this list, the tight end, Jared Wiley out of TCU. The guy had the most touchdowns in college last year, in college as a tight end. He's 6'6", 250 pounds. So he's really big, and he's supposed to be an excellent blocker, which means he'll get on the field, and being a pass protector for Patrick Mahomes is never a bad thing. And you'll give him a chance to shadow what Noah Gray does, and if he outright, beats the job and gets to be backup tight end, then I think that's more than what you could ask for a 4th round pick.
If I'm going with who I'm most interested in, I think Jared Wiley was a great guy that you brought up. But people got to remember as well too, that means we're deep at the height tight end again with 4 tight ends, because we got Irv Smith before we went into the draft. But the one I'm most interested in, I'm going to go with, I say two, Jaden Hicks and also Kamal Haddon, just because their size. We're definitely trying to get that body frame of L'Jarius Sneed again. Now we got other guys who already fit that as well, but I think they're going with this particular, how can I say it, this strategy, this body type, because they saw the success. And then if you're somebody that we can work with as well too, they were talking about Jaden Hicks. He was a playmaker and he likes to hit as well too. If you can bring that out of him as well, then you kind of have the same situation that you had with Steve, because from what I saw with the film, the big play that they saw when he had the interception, when it was down the field, he was in that nickel dime slot. He was up. So he had a guy who was in the slot. And what did Snead do? He was a safety before as well, but they saw that film of him actually covering somebody in the slot, and you saw the same thing. I'm looking like, okay, I see where y'all trying to go with this. Y'all like, okay, we got Dave Merritt, we got Spagnuolo. Those guys are defensive back masterminds. They know how to build that type of guy on the outside, they're like, we'll go through the same process again and have you for another 4 or 5 years, just like we had L'Jarius Sneed. So those
Mhm.
stood out to the most to me in day 3. But if you're going to say overall, Godly Warrior, be honest, Xavier Worthy would be, from the first round. Of
Yeah.
course, that everybody wanted us to get him. So I'm definitely happy about that.
And the Chiefs, I think, agree with Rodney in the chat that they might even like Kingsley the most and thought he was like one of the last remaining starting tackles in their mind. So then maybe that's why they jumped at the chance and gave up another draft pick in
He's
order
very
to
excited.
achieve that, because they gave up a 5th rounder. So they could have had another opportunity to pick just after the Jaden Hicks selection, which I'm going to talk a little bit about myself, and then we'll figure out whether we want to move on to the 5th round or not.
Okay.
But both the 1st and 2nd round choices of the Chiefs this year, they deemed valuable enough to trade up. And then after that, they're just like, whoever's sitting where we're at, we'll try to find the value in and assume coaching can handle the rest.
Right.
So to piggyback off your Jaden Hicks comparison, a lot of people had him literally as like a top 40-ish overall type prospect just because of the way he plays, and some had him as like literally the best safety in their opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So all the footage I got to see of him, he was just mashing people up. So the best thing you could be in this defensive scheme is a quarterback who's not afraid to hit and tackle. And I guess we'll see pretty soon if he translates over to cornerback spot officially or stays in the safety, because honestly, I think everybody's putting Chamari Connor in the spot of L'Jarius Sneed right away. We're basically saying it's his spot to lose, and he's in the exact same position. So that'll be an exciting battle in camp as well. Is our other than Trent McDuffie being an All-Pro, our defensive back room is like it's competitive, but not easy to predict. Which, having seen it work out, we can be a little more optimistic about that situation instead of assume the absolute worst.
So
because
within your
the coaching will do the rest and fill in with the best spot.
So within your point, because I wanted to ask you this question while you were talking about it, right? How do you feel? How do you feel with this move? How does this affect Justin Reed?
That's a great question. I guess we have to see the type of versatility that Justin Reed brings. If he's only a one note, then probably not as valuable and probably won't stay with the team like it might have been looking. If he's, adaptable enough to get placed anywhere on the field and still play that role effectively, then I think Spags could still see the value in that and just continue to move his chess pieces. Because he likes Justin Reed for his intelligence and his playmaking ability at times, and sometimes he's struggled, sometimes he's missed tackles, and other times he's been surefire. So, does it send the writing on the wall? I'm not sure. I guess we'll have to see what training camp looks like, but they definitely did not shy away from adding more secondary help. So
I just think Justin Reed he's gonna have to be opposite of what Tyron was in his last year, like he was on his contract. It wasn't that Tyron was bad, but he did kind of deal with some injuries, some nagging injuries throughout the year. He was available in the playoffs, but it was a short decline. Justin Reed, with his age, at least you're a little bit younger than Tyron, right? So like if you're able to, at least with this competition that's coming into camp, if you're able to elevate your game, I think the Chiefs would love to try to extend him for a couple more years and have him with that young defensive back group, because the veteran experience will be important. But Jaden Hicks, he's going to give you a run for your money. Now, I know you get mad at people when we talk about it and you think we're just outsiders talking the game. Don't block us, bro. This is just a conversation that we're having. but I think it might bring more out of him as well too. That's why I like the pickup as well, because if you can come in, we know that Spags, he likes to utilize his DBs as well too. At times, we even seen guys like Deion Bush, even in the playoffs, even though we dealt with injury, they had their reps on the defense as well. So if you're able to come in and be able to contribute, and you're just a surefire where it's like, okay, you're going to be able to make the roster, I'm satisfied with that. And that's what Brett Veach said, right? Going into the last couple of days when he started out from the Xavier Worthy pick, going into day 2 and day 3, he was like, now we're just trying to field guys on a roster that is ready to play now.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this was a great move.
All right, I gotta shout out Kansas. McCole 2.0. I'm thinking Worthy. At least he's not getting compared to Tyreek, because they'll play similarly, but I think Xavier Worthy is a much better actual football player coming out of college than Mecole Hardman was, because of what they were asked to do at their respective schools. So I'm not saying that Xavier Worthy is going to be a star right away or anything like that, but I think have more faith that his abilities are higher than who he's getting compared to.
And Kenneth, to answer what you said, like, to be honest, we discussed that even with coming into this role this season. When Hardman came in, technically he was going to be a wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, right? With what we have right now, Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice, he's coming into that role. Now I think he's going to play Hardman's role better than what Hardman did in his role, because he has the quickness, but I think he is more polished as a route runner, and his hands is better as well too. So you're going to get someone who will be able to eventually become the number 1 wide receiver, which we gave Mecole Hardman a chance too. So the comparison, I'm not all the way mad with it, because that's what we was hoping when Tyreek Hill got in trouble. We was like, oh, Mecole Hardman might be able to come in and play that role. Well, we might actually get the 2.0 that you talk about. 2.0 means better as well.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying. And he's a 3-time champion.
Very polished route runner, 10 times better at running routes than Tyreek. Rodney agrees, way more polished route runner than Hardman. So just have a little faith. He's only 21, but he's a 3-year starter. And in college football right now, or in college sports in general, to stay with a team for several years, that's almost unheard of. So that says something about what he stands for and thinks is important. They look similar. I don't see enough swiftness. But maybe when you have such incredible speed, people are worried about giving you enough space anyway. So if Xavier gets any space in the NFL, we'll see what that damage is.
And that was a strength. They said that was strength. Get open
field.
So,
Dale, do you have any other thoughts around our 2 round 4 selections?
Didn't get to talk much about Jaren Wiley, but I do love that pickup. I think he probably could be the tight end 3. He had the most touchdowns in the FBS, right, this season as a tight end. Mm-hmm. Also was a great blocking tight end as well too. I looked at his size, not trying to hype it, but I see some built similarities like Kelsey. Now all the way, I'm not saying that, but like the height, kind of like the body type. We're not saying he's gonna be him. Kelsey, he's way above, but I do see them trying to like mimic the body type of what he has, and then also you explode it as a receiving tight end as well too, getting those touchdowns.
So we have a perfect comparison for Jared Wiley, and it's somebody that we've already previously had on the show before.
JD.
That's right. 6'6", 270, 250, 260. Yeah, that says Jason Dunn. And according to some scouting reports, there's no concern about Wiley catching. Obviously, he had the most tight end touchdowns in college. We'd love a new red zone threat, and if everybody's focused on I already hyped this up on Thursday and Friday. Like we go about all these wide receiver options, and we don't even talk about Travis Kelce. Now we still won't even talk about a guy who led the college football in touchdown catches. Like, that should be considered a weapon too, but
right,
it's going to get pushed down the list. So
And yeah, but what came out in them highlights as well too is kind of what we want to do within our offense, and what I saw guys like Noah Gray and even Jody Forson have done in the past. They slip behind guys, like you're not paying attention, and on some of those catches, he was downfield right alone, caught the ball and go in for a touchdown. So if he can bring that onto the offense on times when Mahomes is probably moving around in the pocket and they got everybody else covered, if he can be able to break loose and we able to get downfield and catch it, hey, that's needed for this offense.
Kenneth comes back with what happens with Justin Ross and another wide receiver. Well, I mentioned about 3 or 4 other wide receiver names in, or at least other receiving options in UDFAs. So I think we've got enough people on the roster. Whether or not they stick is the main question. I think the writing was on the wall, and I think it was abundantly clear that the wide receiver room needed an overhaul, and thankfully they've done it. So
yeah, he might not make the roster, bro. Let's put it like that.
We already talked about this a little bit in the previous live, where they're probably not going to take as many wide receivers going into the season and trying to just keep people more in a structured role instead of having a rotational issue, because I think they hyped that as one of their main problem points. And then once they stopped doing that, they felt a lot more confident in what was going on. So they're probably going to lean more into that in this season too.
And if Xavier Worthy gets one deep ball down the field in preseason and it's a touchdown for 6 within the first couple minutes of that game, you're locked down with the big 3 of wide receivers. And then, like we said, might be 3 more on there. So who knows?
1, 4, and 5, baby. And we got wide receivers, and they're right on there on the first couple numbers on the roster sheet. All right, round 5. We got the pick, Hunter Nazard from Penn State, listed as a center. Last played at center, but I think it's probably worth noting that the Chiefs didn't have Joe Thuney in the Super Bowl and had Nick Allegretti playing in that spot. And Nick Allegretti signed a deal with Washington during the offseason. So the Chiefs were in need of some versatile backup offensive linemen who they feel can move around and play several positions and not just strictly one interior spot. I think they're okay having backup tackles, but when it comes to interior linemen, they like 2 or 3 total, and they'd prefer if you could play guard and center both. And I want to say that this kid mostly played on the left side, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll see if he ends up being more of a left guard or if this is a center move. It didn't seem like that's what they were hinting at, but if you said his position in college is center and you said that on the NFL name card, then that's at least what you're assuming it's going to be. I'm pretty sure Darian Kennard, when he was drafted, was called out as a tackle before.
They hyped it. Yeah, they hyped the tackle and then were saying that potentially he might be best at guard. And just to put it out there for you, Rodney said more on the right side.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So that may be a Trey Smith indicator, or again, just some more camp bodies, because you need several starting offensive line arrangements when you have 3-4 teams.
So this was a big conversation. A lot of people was like questioning on Twitter and other social media platforms as well too. They was like, what was the point of this pick? Well, yeah, like you just said, pretty much he's versatile. Like he can do pretty much play any inside offensive line position. But I think it's filling that Allegretti role where we can be prepared for the future if something doesn't work out with Trey Smith next season contract wise. I think we are going to be locked in on trying to keep Creed Humphrey at center. But I think he's someone who can come in and pretty much very reliable. Someone, if you need him to start at that time, he can come in, and we're not going to be losing that much sleep knowing that one of the guys might be out for the game or anything like that. So I do think this was smart. We definitely need more camp bodies as well too, and we need the depth behind the guys that we have as well too. And we know with Andy Reid and Andy Heck as well, and how they run that offensive line, yeah, you kind of think that how offensive line is set up. You know how we got all these wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, and then you got to back up for them back for like both sides and all that other stuff. With line, you already got 5 straight linemen, right? You got to think about the bodies that's going to be taken up for the 53-man roster as well. They honestly just need like 2 or 3 other guys who can rotate between any position. That way it's not taking as much. It's not taking much up. You don't want to go into the season with 10 linemen, right? You want to at least go in with 7 or 8 to where you got your starting guys. Those guys are not injury prone like that. Some of them, right? And then you got the other 3 where it's like pick and plug. So, okay, you go here, right here. It makes the most sense, and we're still going to be able to run the offense like we're supposed to. So you got to think about that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to fill out spots on a short-term roster and a much larger roster, and know that you've got your actual 53 that you're planning, and
right.
Like, yeah, they go kind of hand in hand, and you're always trying to find the best of the best to make the 53, but you got to just throw several darts anyway. You fill up spots even if they don't pan out. I mean, we've seen a 3rd round pick get outright cut and not even make the team. So we've seen a 2nd round pick get completely released off this team 2 years later. So it doesn't matter where you're drafted. If you're a good enough player, you'll stick on the roster, and if you don't pan out, Brett Veach is not afraid to kick you out and replace you with somebody he thinks is better. So
a gamble.
That's right. So then that's the end of round 5. So then we go into round 6, where you already mentioned him a little bit. The cornerback out of Tennessee. You want to kind of go over him a little bit more?
Yeah, so with
Kamal Hayden, cornerback Tennessee.
With Kamal Hayden, I was looking at the film when they had it up and everything like that, and he had some great length, and he was physical. He can get up, and we're looking for some guys that can, who like to jam as well, because what did Snead become? He became a guy who will get up in your face, and really he's just throwing off your timing when you're coming out the line of scrimmage. And if you're able to really put that together, along with having great cover skills and having some speed behind you as well to keep up, that's going to be needed in this defensive back group. So with what they got, with what they have going on, I think that was a great pickup, and I think he has some nagging injuries that he was dealing with as well too. I think that's why what could have pushed him back a little bit. Was somebody that was on a lot of people's radar as well too. So hopefully he comes into our training staff. We get him worked out, get him feeling back to normal, and then hopefully at camp he shows out and really can find a spot on this 53-man roster. It's going to be hard, because we got a guy from last year that people have been hyping up as well too, Najee Johnson, and they said that could have been a potential Snead replacement. So you bringing these other guys that has the same body frame as well, they're going to be battling throughout camp. And depending on how good they are, you might see them a lot rotating within these 3 games, seeing if they can be in like, hey, go out there with the starter, see what you can do. But I just want to see if you can be able to play with the big boys. And you might have to do that with a couple positions. Like, hey, right now, y'all know we're the reigning defending champions, not being cocky or anything like that, but we have pretty much everything locked up. What are you going to be able to contribute when we need to put you out there? And he's going to be able to fight for that. So I can't wait to see it. He's out of Tennessee. So yeah, it's going to be fun.
Yeah. If the Jaden Hicks selection wasn't like we're trying to find a Snead replacement, this is it as well. I mean, he's big, he's strong. He did get hurt midway through last season, so didn't get to see a full season's worth, which injuries hasn't seemed to really stop teams from drafting players. If they see talent, that's what just pushes them further down the list. So mostly used as an outside corner. So that should, we're not going to see him in the slot. If he does play that Snead role, he'd be bullying people on the boundaries, and we'll see in training camp if he can do that against like the likes of Sky Moore and Justin Ross and some other training camp level wide receivers, and see if that starts to translate once you start going against Patrick Mahomes throwing the ball to him.
Just bully them out the gate. Just make Dave Merritt and Spagnuolo put odds on you already. Go ahead, like these guys, we wanted the potential out of them. We wanted to bring it out of them. We wanted them to be more involved. We're still trying to give them hope. Go ahead, if you want to do anything, bully them right now. That way, it's like I'm not trying to work with them no more. Give me Hollywood, give me Rashee Rice, give me all of them, so y'all can see what I do against guys who are going to be out there all the time. Once you're able to prove that, we might have something.
And it says that one of his weaknesses might be his tendency to be a little grabby. So that
we don't care.
Coaching and referee, you find out what the coaching staff and what the officiating crew will allow. You can find that fine line between normal playing and cheating. So,
and Clinton, our last two number one cornerbacks, what did they like to do?
Oh, dude, come on, they push you to the ground, baby. That's 5 yards.
I don't care. You're not getting the interception on me. It's either it's going to be a good play, or hey, bro, I mean, you got this little 5 yard or whatever they want to call it, interception at the time spot on the ball, but you ain't getting it off like that. So when it worked within what we was doing defensively as well. I think it's just like if you're making more plays. If you're making more plays other than, getting more penalties, right, then we're fine. If it's a healthy balance with Snead, honestly, it was a healthy balance. At certain times, he might have done something probably dumb towards the end of the game, but typically he'll get stuff off early on, and then after that, he sees how the refs are operating and is like, okay, well, I know what I can do within my limits. I'm going to go ahead and attack you early on. Let's just start off the rhythm. With Tyreek Hill, you had to do that. And with these wide receivers that's coming up as well, if you're going to have an advantage, you got to get that timing thrown off early. Because right now, a lot of offenses, they are building their strengths towards the players that they have on the field, right? They're trying to baby some of the quarterbacks that's coming up. Okay, if everything has to be a timing thing with you and a receiver, better yet, I don't even care if Reek did it one time with Steve where he kind of was able to shift off of him a little bit. The throw was off with him and Tua. That's all that matters. If you are not able to complete the ball, that's a win for me. You can make it look however you want on film. I threw you off with that battle.
Right. It can be as ugly as you want as long as you're getting the job done.
Right.
The Chiefs proved it last year. They're willing to win even if it's ugly all the way through.
You might catch me a couple times. Hey, it is what it is.
That's right. Anything else you want to mention about him?
No, that's it for me.
Okay, and then Chiefs finished their official NFL draft class with the 7th round selection, number 248 overall. CJ Hansen, guard out of Holy Cross. Holy Cross is also a tough league to find film in, and your competition is also not always there, but was basically a starter every year he was there at right guard, excuse me. So does a little better with quickness, but we'll see if he ends up getting, 2 guys in a row when you have them late in the draft. They tend to be a little grabby. they know how to play football by grabbing people. You got to teach them out of that.
Yeah, technique, everything.
Yep. But it seems like he knows enough about fundamentals and things like that he could be coached up a little more all the same. So I obviously feel a little less about this one than I did about the Penn State center, just because of his versatility in playing at Penn State. You probably play against a lot better linemen than
a lot better talent.
Holy Cross. So, any thoughts about him?
Camp body. That's a real camp body right there. I think it's more of if you're able to get something out of him, if he's able to like show some type of light, it might not be as much to where it's on your 53-man roster. But hey, not saying that he's just somebody that's just gonna become tradable, but what if he shows some type of flashes that other team may be like, hey, I want that depth over here. I know y'all good over there, but I'll give y'all a little back end draft pick or something like that, in the future, and we be good. We always planning for stuff like that. We're looking at next year because we know the guys that's honestly, I mean, Isaiah Pacheco was in the 7th round, so we're not just gonna completely throw you to say like you're not gonna make it, but as a lineman, those guys, pretty much the better ones are always first, second. Some trickle into the 3rd or 4th. We know Trey Smith went into the 6th. We understand, but you had an injury history. They had you in the 3rd, 2nds, and stuff like that. So we can have that comparison, but someone like this is definitely just a camp body, and it's nothing against him. But we don't have that much film as well because he did come out of Holy Cross. So.
And also Trey Smith was a left tackle in college, and a lot of teams pick out the tackles in college and convert to guard, and you have to be a very special interior player, kind of like Creed Humphrey was coming out, to be selected in those early rounds to strictly play interior lineman, and they see your value and talent at that, versus that you are a tackle in college and you're doing what you can because your team needs you and you're their best player. But in the NFL, you probably translate better to guard instead. Yeah,
yep.
I can see that. So I think that probably coordinates more, because a lot of people are assuming that their 7th round could be another spot for the Chiefs to pick up another backup running back. But is it safe to say that out of all the names of the undrafted free agents, and we can go over a couple more of those if some stand out to you more than others, but I think is it fair to say that out of that group, the running backs, the Carson Steele and the Imani Bailey are the signings that you think might actually end up making the actual roster, at least a practice squad variation of the roster when the regular season comes around?
They definitely could potentially make the practice squad. Carson Steele, he the one with the alligator, right?
The alligator?
He got an alligator, bro. Is he out of UCLA?
He is at UCLA.
Yeah, he the one with the alligator, bro.
Years old.
He's got. Hey, I want an alligator, bro. So I'm already feeling you off the alligator. He got that dog, and they say he looked like Thor. He a fullback though, for real. They say he really might come in as a fullback, and depending on what he do in preseason, we could go back into that. I saw a comparison of Cal Jusic. I'm sorry if I screwed up your name, bro. Jusic, something like that. Yeah.
Juice. You got to check on your juice.
Okay. I won't screw it up no more right there.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, it was some comparison to that. And in UCLA they was doing like this weird T-bone set, like with the 3 running backs in the back. He had a big run off of that, was pretty decent. So I can see some potential in that if they want to go back with a fullback and go back to having someone traditional like that. But with Imani Bailey, right? Or what was his last name?
Yeah.
Okay. Out of TCU, don't know too much about them, but I know TCU, they always competitive, so it might be a good pickup for us. Got to look a little bit more into them, but you got to remember he had guys like Deneric Prince already. Michael Piron was already on the 53-man roster as well, and they still on the roster now. I don't know what they're gonna have to do, something outstanding, very notable for us to be like, hey, we want you over these guys. But with Steele, I think he might have the best chance just because you could move to fullback and we rock with one fullback and then have a tight end prepare for that as well too. But that's all that I really got on the undrafted
Okay.
guys.
Yeah, same here. I think those two were the standouts. I got to call out Curtis Jacobs again now that Rodney's in the chat with us. That was one of his guys he wanted in the 6th or 7th round, so he's most likely a guy who could end up staying.
Okay.
I love talking about age with Brett Veach, and Brett Veach loves showing that he loves a certain age with his players because both those running backs I just mentioned are 21 and 22 respectively, which is incredible because running backs in college, you think of they're older and they get beat up. But, I mean, the 3 or 4 year starters and you're only still lower 20s. Brett Veach will scoop that up every time.
And then Shredder from Mizzou, did he end up going? He went to 49ers, did he? Something like that?
Yeah, I believe that's right. And then there was quite a bit of
Lonnie guy right there. He loved him.
Then there was a couple other Mizzou Tigers that got drafted in between the 4th and 7th round.
Was it like the most?
Yeah, it was quite a lot. I was commenting about the Michigan Wolverines. Like, I thought there was a lot that 2nd round, and then like the 3rd round was crazy with them, and I think the 4th round was still crazy with them. So
they end up having like 13 total, I think, like the most drafted.
Basically, an entire starting side of the ball. It's crazy. But I think out of that list, I think Fabian Lovett, the defensive tackle out of Florida State, he could possibly stick if the Chiefs see value in that because they didn't spend any legit kind of draft capital or free agency towards their defensive line other than who was already on the team the year before and just reassuring that those pieces came back. So it's good to have those, but they didn't quite focus on the depth of those as you would have thought. So he might end up sticking just because of the position that he plays. If we're going to speculate on a new undrafted free agent wide receiver, Justin Ross can now get replaced with Reggie Brown out of James Madison. So if we think a undrafted free agent wide receiver is going to take the reins, I guess we'll speculate that it's him now because Justin Ross was so last season. And then I guess Driscoll could maybe stick. Maybe they think enough of him. But I think that's basically all I really had to say about the undrafteds as well. There was a couple names that stood out that we already mentioned because of already seeing those names before or thinking that they could possibly be a 6th or a 7th round within your mock draft. But as a free agent signing, I think those players honestly prefer it. I'm sure they don't like the not being drafted and what it says about that. But I think if you're an undrafted free agent, you're happier with that contract than a 7th round pick. I know it's not for as many years, but it's about the same contract structure wise. So wouldn't you rather be able to choose who you went with if the money was basically the exact same right off the bat? So
yeah, I mean, at least it's something that's livable though. It's like, hey, what a lot of people make it might, people might talk about it, but still at the same time, at least they doing what they love at the same time, right? But they have the chance of end up getting these $1 million contracts. I mean, Brock Purdy probably didn't expect to even be in this position he is right now, the lowest paid person that's even on his roster, and honestly, he's one of the top 3 important players on that team. So, but his life will change eventually, and that's something where it's like, honestly, he can do what he want now because what you did within the years that you have, you're going to be $100 million plus.
You're going to get taken care of.
You're going to get taken care of. Like, you got that. It's just you need to finish out this season now. And honestly, we know those contract extensions or conversations are happening, especially with his agents, because we're not even about to play with y'all right now. This is a 7th round pick. Really wasn't supposed to be here. Give him his money now. We need to get our back in. immediately. We're not even about to play these games again and injure or anything. So that that aspect, when you look at it, it's like you don't have nothing to lose, but you have way more to gain.
Yeah.
Isaiah Pacheco came in the mindset, I'm taking a grown man job. He really took a grown man job.
He really did, and made him up his backup as well, and he had to be okay with being
And
backup too.
he making Tyreek Hill phone call for his number. Like they're beat. Like he wanted. You're not. We forgot. Like you're not. Some people don't. I'm not gonna lie. Some people in chat right now. Like you forgot, bro. Trust me, I didn't either. But hey, the conversation is there. So it's hilarious.
Very true. And like Isaiah Pacheco, sometimes the biggest contributor on the team in the draft might be a 6th or 7th rounder undrafted. It really doesn't matter where the spot is. The value can be spotted, and this team can spot value in places that other teams just can't. And it's nice because you can justify that feeling because it's worked on the scoreboard and in the trophy case. I mean, I just got my picture with the 4 Super Bowl trophies now. So, I mean, life is good, you know?
Right. Life is good over here in Chiefs Kingdom.
That's right. We did a lot of reactions for Thursday and Friday. So, of course, this one's a little more pinned down because you have to be really passionate about one of the choices. And you know, if we just stared at the list of the entire choices of 4th through 7th round, I'm sure we'll be like, oh man, that player should have gone to the Chiefs, and I'm upset that they went here. But I mean, I try not to approach the draft like that and try to fall in love with every single name because you just know that it's not realistic. So you got a feeling about a certain group of guys, and you're like, oh man, yeah, he gone. But now I'm focused on just waiting for who's my team going to pick.
Right. Yep. Just seeing what we get and what we add into the roster. And just always remember, like, these rounds right here, for especially 4 through 7, this is building championship rosters. We think they're not important, but these are the remainder guys who's on the back end where if somebody get hurt and we need somebody to come in, you still got the stars around them, but they got to fill in and do something at least to help push it that way. So the 53-man roster is important. They still have an opportunity to make an impact in some type of way, regardless if you're a backup or if you're somebody who just taking a ride along with the team. Hey, everyone has a purpose. So at the end of the day, these guys who get their name called is changing their lives for their families, and not only their families, but for themselves, most importantly, because now they get to go through this new avenue and get to figure out what they have going next. So congratulations to all the 2024 NFL draftees. We wish you definitely great luck going forward in this journey. And we hope that everyone can potentially find their way in the NFL and the National Football League.
Mm-hmm. It's a gamble. It is a gambit. That's what it's all about. GMs are throwing a bunch of darts, and we've been fortunate that in recent time the darts have been bullseye after bullseye. It's okay to admit that Brett Veach's early stage when he was just getting his feet wet were a little bit of a struggle, but you have to commend like his progress and just like bask in the greatness that's happened. And it's not just one location. It's greatness that's built throughout the entire organization. It's felt in every location. When one particular group needs to step up, they end up doing it, and it doesn't matter who the name on the jersey is. They end up playing above that and playing for the team. So I love to see it. I agree with Lonnie. The roster is loaded, and when you're a Super Bowl winning team trying to three-peat, you need your team to be difficult to make those cut downs we can safely say that a lot of the positional battles should lead to some tough cut downs. And prior to the draft officially coming to a close, we would have been saying bring in a couple more free agent signings just to ensure the roster is official and the competition is there. I think
Right.
with the draft pick that they made over these last 3 days, I think we can be a little easier and wait for training camp to come around and see how much competition is happening, because it feels like the level has been raised for sure.
Yes.
So we officially hit the 1 hour mark for our live reactions, and once again we've hit nearly 70 on X. So y'all have just been killing it the last few days. I gotta give you your flowers. You guys are killing it. I don't know what we did right to deserve your attention the last 3 nights, especially tonight when we feel like you would be just completely comatose and done with draft coverage. You guys are here and you hung out with us and you stayed and grew the longer we went on. So we really appreciate the love and support. We're not always posting on X, so if you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing to our YouTube channel as well. We're trying to build up our subscriber count over there. We've got plenty of podcast episodes. Our next goal is 150. We set it at 100. We say we have a certain amount of subs, and then boom, a couple more people pop in and thank you for that. So can't say a number because by the time I say it, they prove me wrong, which is a good feeling instead. But if that's interests you, you can head over to our YouTube channel. We got several podcast episodes ready to go. We've got all the live streams that you guys also chilled with on here, and post more of our short form content on YouTube all the time and our TikTok. And we also have our Substack that we're going to put some more paid promotion on there here in the next couple weeks. Now that the draft is finally done, we have to let it marinate. We got to let our opinions marinate in there. Make sure we're not just spitting back out the same reactions from right afterwards. And you're going to hear from mishmash of the crew that hung out with you last few days. And giving you their thoughts more in depth about the draft picks that got them excited, and who also might be the camp bodies or any of those storylines that we might be looking at when the season feels like it's officially rolling around. The draft is concluded, so we do know that 2024 season will in fact happen. So that is one step towards football being back once again. And we all can't wait to be there, and hope that we continue to be on that journey and get to experience the NFL season along with you guys, just like we got to enjoy the last couple days of the draft. And if you've been following us even longer than that, the Super Bowl victory and the ups and downs of last season. So I can't wait to come back and be like, we are officially in the next season of our Chiefs coverage, and get ready to roll. So, anything else you want to leave the people with, Dale?
Look at Clayton's eyes. He's exhausted. Bro has been putting in too many hours during this draft coverage and went to Draft Fest as well, too, which seemed like it was lit. So it's worthy for her first time. But man, we definitely appreciate everyone for supporting us on X, supporting us on YouTube, Facebook, wherever you really get any of the Red Kingdom coverage. We definitely want to be keeping this up. We're almost here. Camp is coming up soon, rookie mini camp, and then regular training camp. And for those who are in Kansas City, go out there, take them pictures, send it to us. We'll post it. We'll show it. Like, we got everything going on, bro. This is really for y'all, and then also for us to come together and just have a good time talking about Chiefs football. And once preseason is here, once that first game start, week by week, we only have one break in between that to the regular season start. And y'all know we the first game of the season because of what? We're defending Super Bowl champions.
That's right.
So
And
that's all I got for the people.
unfortunately, we didn't have quite as luck the last season opener that we started out, but obviously we
Right.
saw how the season ended. So you'll take the beginning if it results in the conclusion that we had. So
Right.
hopefully we just keep doing it and we can just keep manifesting these Super Bowl wins, man.
Facts.
But thank you all for supporting us. It really means a lot. Love you all so much. God bless each and every one of you. Enjoy the rest of your weekend now that the draft is over. Get some rest before you come back and be even nerdier. And once you're hungry for Chiefs content, don't worry. We'll be back with you guys on Monday if you want to check out our daily updates on our Substack. But we won't be gone for too long. We've got some more thoughts to get out, and then we'll be bunkering down, ready for the season to begin. So enjoy the rest of your weekend. Hope you all enjoy it. As always, let's go Chiefs!
Thanks for checking out this update straight from the heart of Chiefs Kingdom. We appreciate your passion, so please leave a like and follow us wherever you tune in from. See you next tailgate, your trusted source for all things Chiefs, Red Kingdom.